I'd like to talk today about John Milton's Paradise Lost. Milton's Paradise Lost was written during the Renaissance. It was completed in 1665 and published in 1667. The one thing that characterizes Milton's Paradise Lost is that it takes the fall of man, the short excerpt in Genesis with the creation of man and the fall of mankind, and slows it down and expands it. Milton uses the mind of Satan to see what was Satan thinking. How could man have fallen so low? How could man have been tempted when man had such a paradise at hand? And Milton makes a lot of suppositions about that. People didn't necessarily like Milton's text because it looked at the fall from Satan's perspective. Satan becomes almost a sympathetic hero, and many people thought that that was heretic. So, that being said, we're going to dive into Milton's Paradise Lost with a series of videos, but when we're looking at Paradise Lost, I want you to understand that it's set up like a story. It is indeed an epic poem, but it reads very much like a story. One of the terms I'd like you to know is enjambment. What enjambment is it's a continuation of a thought on a second line of poetry, well, second or subsequent line of poetry. In many traditional poems, a thought will be contained on one line, and then the next line will contain a new thought, and the poem will move forward that way. But with enjambment, the thought continues through each subsequent line, and sometimes a thought will end in the middle of a line, and a new thought will begin on that same line and continue on for several lines. The other term that I would like you to be familiar with this text is in medias res, and what that simply means is in the middle of things. Writers who work with this type of a craft with in medias res, what they do is they start in the middle of things. They take no time to set up a backstory, but they start right with the action. And in Paradise Lost, what we find is we start right with the action. Satan has been cast into chaos, and we find him waking up and looking at himself and looking at the fallen angels, and he seems somewhat confused when he first wakes up. So we're right there with him. If Milton wasn't starting this way with in medias res, he would have started and set up some background that there was a fall in heaven and, and Satan was cast into chaos. But rather than setting this up and us starting at some nice pre-packaged scene, we start right where the action begins. And so now, please watch the series of videos that's going to explain significant passages of Milton's Paradise Lost.